Okay, I think we're live. Good evening, and welcome to another edition of State of the Union. I'm your host, Kimble. I'm the CEO and founder of the Financial Services Innovation Coalition and the executive director of the Southern Christian Leadership Global Policy Initiative. Tonight, I'm lucky to have two really great guests who are going to explain to us. We're going to continue our conversation on discrimination and anti-competitive behavior towards Black businesses, healthcare. We're back to healthcare again. We did healthcare a couple weeks ago. We're going to do another healthcare story. And join us, Carol Jordan person of the CFO of Fresh New Beginnings and treasurer of Halo Center Incorporated, and her business partner and partner in crime, Danielle Rivera, co-founder of Halo Healing Center and director of Avenyx,
Avenyx.
Avenyx Incorporated. So, ladies, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to let y'all explain what you do, and then we're going to talk about what they're doing to you, how they're treating you badly, and then what we can do about it. So I'll let y'all choose who goes first.
Carol.
Okay. Okay. Well, Kevin, thank you for having us on tonight. There, for those of us who are on the mental health side of the healthcare system. Um, so my name is Carol Person. I am the CFO for Fresh New Beginnings. Um, we've been in business a couple years now, and also the treasurer for Halo Healing Center, which is just a phenomenal nonprofit. But my background in the field that I'm in right now has just been nothing short of amazing. Nobody understands how deep and um, how important mental health is until you have to deal with somebody that's going through mental health issues. And unfortunately, whether we want to believe it or not, we are all dealing with mental health issues. Um, so I appreciate this platform to speak on what it is that we in the mental health field are currently dealing with and the struggles that we as Black businesses, Black entrepreneurs, Black employers Danielle, I'll let you have it.
Thank you for having us, Kevin. My name is Danielle Rivera. I am the co-founder of Halo Healing Center Incorporated in Chesterfield, where we provide court-mandated classes for individuals that need anger management, domestic violence, and John School, which is the stop prevention of prostitution, those that have been caught soliciting. And we also do shoplifting classes. We are currently in works for getting other programs through Henrico County and kind of broadening that spectrum, all across Virginia, so that way we can service other people. Um, Avenyx Healthcare is our new baby. Hopefully this is why we're having this conversation. She is our new baby that we try to do substance abuse care or dual diagnosis for those that have mental health issues and substance use disorder. Um, so right now we are in progress of trying to get that going, but getting credentialed in the MCOs has been a challenge.
Well, so talk to me about that. This is how we all got started. When we met, you guys explained to me, or they changed the rules or whatever, and then most of the Black businesses in this space were not able to get re-registered or weren't get. So one or both explain that to the audience, like the process, what is supposed to be and what it turned out to be.
So I'll let Carol explain that, because what we did, the way we all started working together, I'm sorry, Carol, was we did Mobile Crisis. And Mobile Crisis had, Carol, correct me if I'm wrong, about 240 providers. And they had us all put in a bid and they downsized us to 30. So I will let her go ahead and explain how everything went about, because she has all the administrative details.
Okay.
So back in July of last year, we had to submit an RFP here in Richmond area, which is considered Region 4. We had to RBHA and DBHDS, which is the Department of Health, Behavioral Health, and RBHA is Richmond Behavioral Health. They issued an RFP that we all had to submit for, which was, something that you threw the state and try to get win the bid. So we put in for the bid, and essentially was, I say, give or take, over 200 providers. They narrowed it down to just 40, give or take. And some lost, some won, but we lost one of our services and we ended up with community stabilization. So we won something. However, in the change, we have no direction. It's no, hey, this is how community stab is going to work now. You have to get a referral from another provider in order to bill. You can't refer to yourself. There's so much misinformation, and no opportunity for anybody to do things the right way. No guidance. And we just feel like we've been left out. And then trying to get new services, as Danielle touched on, the insurance companies, the MCOs, they're not signing up new mental health providers. They're not issuing, credentials to somebody that's trying to get a different type of mental health program or anything like that. It's just made it hard, and the livelihood for those, because I had to cut half of my staff.
Right. So
because I lost
the 200. So the 200 providers, they all had, you guys all had contracts before, and then they cut you down to 40.
We had contracts with DMAS and DBHDS, but not with RBHA. Well, I'll say with RBHA too, but because RBHA is the hub.
Okay.
RBHA is the hub, and everybody goes through the RBHA was doing the same thing we did.
Gotcha.
So how they got?
I'm sorry. Explain RVHA. The same thing. What does that mean?
Meaning they provided the same services that we provided.
And RVHA is who? I'm sorry.
RBHA is Richmond Behavioral Health. That's
a separate company.
It's a whole separate company.
Okay. So you guys. So I'm trying to understand get the structure. So RVHA and you guys were partners at one point, or what?
No,
what happened?
They're the major hub.
Okay.
So a lot of the providers had to go. I wouldn't say go through them, but they are the first, and they are essentially provided the same programs that we did: crisis, community stabilization. Stuff like that, but they did not have to put in for the RFP.
So they did not have to do a bid. Okay.
They didn't have to submit for it.
Okay.
No.
And how did they get an exception to that?
No clue.
Okay.
No clue. There was a lawsuit filed, which a judge here in Chesterfield County threw out. A bunch of providers got in on that. A bunch of providers jumped in on a lawsuit. I think it was over 20 of them. The judge heard and threw it out. It just kept coming back to, well, how much money did you make? How much money did you make? How much money did you make? So
can I ask you a question? Who decided to change the structure? Who was in charge of that whole process?
I want to say Region 4.
DBHDS, Department of Virginia Healthcare, or region.
So it would be the Department of Behavioral Health.
Okay. At the Department of Health of Virginia, or is that a separate?
Yeah.
So it's under the Department of Health.
It's a whole separate entity too. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. What? So you just filed a lawsuit. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just to mention, when they awarded the RFP, there was a breach of information.
Okay.
Because when they awarded the RFP, Carol, and Carol, please correct me if I'm wrong. They released everybody's information.
Mm-hmm.
So you had bank statements, you had, demographic information, how much money people made. And the way we found out was one of our staff members sent us a letter letting us know, hey, there was a breach, just letting you know in case any of your information was stolen. And when that was brought to their attention, they kind of were like, oh, well.
So, so we go through this. So how many would you say how big of a piece of the pie did RHA get in this without the no bid? How much of the business did they get?
All of it is what
Well, you
it
got a
feels.
little bit.
So it is separated, right? But
Mhm.
RBHA, from my understanding, RBHA gets the initial dispatch. So the way that it works is you have individuals contact 988, which is the National Suicide Hotline. It
Mhm.
goes to a dispatch system. Someone gets all their demographic information. My understanding is that it goes to RBHA, and then RBHA determines if there's a provider
Okay.
in that region to, dispatch it to, if they do not have someone. So they kind of get first dibs on it.
On the count. Okay.
But
All right.
a lot of people, when we were doing it, we would see that they would decline working with RBHA
Gotcha.
because RBHA is understaffed and cannot provide these services.
Right.
RBHA has, and Carol, worked in the mobile crisis a little longer, so I will always ask her to, correct me if I'm wrong. They have wait times. They have, those patients that come in and you have to wait. You can't get immediate services and things like that. So that's why people were declining working with them, and they'd rather work with independent providers.
Right.
But now they've made it to where RBHA is, the provider, and then they determine if others, there's someone in the region.
Now, who made that decision? Like who was actually the executive director? Was it a legislative change or was it just a regulatory change?
I think it was a regulatory change through the Department of Behavioral Health Services, the Region 4 directors and administration team, and probably those in RBHA, and they made that decision.
So and I guess when the lawsuit was filed, you guys were part of the lawsuit. I assume. Who did you file the lawsuit against?
We filed the lawsuit was filed against RBHA and DBHDS. And a lot of providers didn't get on that lawsuit because they were afraid of the pushback. But nobody is having this conversation with the providers that, and you hear some say, oh, they're just sore losers. Well, it's not even that, it's not even about being a sore loser. There's enough out here for everybody, and the fact of the matter is it's so much that's going on behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And to not even understand or hear or even take the time to listen to the providers. Yes, we have one service that we provide. Mm-hmm. And luckily we do have something else, but make it fair across the board.
Yeah. Well, so I will say, in business, one of the, I know I'm asking you a lot of really hard, like minutiae questions, but I'm doing this a lot for the audience because this is the process. We were always talking about advocacy, and everyone. There's a very. This is not a performative exercise. This is really a very detailed, painstaking exercise you're going through, and I'm trying to lead because we do leave a lot of money on the table. Before we got online, we were talking about black daycares not being able to get into the daycare business, which is happening in a lot of places. And there are we wrote a letter to the Department of Justice 2 years ago, the Biden administration, about the anti-competitive behavior in healthcare towards Black-owned facilities or Black-run businesses. So you're not the first or the last that we've heard of, just a long line of succession. So I want to. One of our goals is for people to understand that it's not, it's okay for you to expect to be treated fairly, and it's okay for you to fight back against those things. So that's part of this conversation. But the details are, everyone gets frustrated. You guys are what is it called, the fire pisser. So y'all don't get, y'all stay in the game. But a lot of people walk away and say, "Oh well, it's all I got." But so I think it's very interesting to have this this conversation. I'm going to ask a few more detailed questions. Unfortunately, I'm a lawyer, so some of these things will just make me like I need to be able to piece it together. So BHA is a private company, and they've got the sole source contract basically with to be the intermediary for the state. Is that how that work?
For Region 4.
So,
for Region 4, okay.
Because it's broken up by.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the other regions?
Broken up by regions, yes.
you know what the other regions are? Or how
5,
many regions are there?
2, 10, 1.
It goes to 10
Um,
regions, a total of 10.
it's probably more than that.
It's 1 through 10.
1 through 10. Okay. And I guess in every region there's a like one big company that gets the referral business, and then they decide who gets it, or how do you know how that works?
No, this was actually the first time that they did this. Every region. So basically, what it is, you get your license through DBHDS, your license to provide the service, you get credentialed with the MCO, and you provide mobile crisis services, and you sign an MOU with the region that you're in. And then there was no, as long as you had an MOU in place, there was no issue. Region 4 decided, something happened last year, and they were like, well, we don't like this. I guess there was too many providers, there was too many people at the table, and they decided to remove some seats.
And so from the 200 to the 160 that basically got wiped out of this process, how many were African American or minorities?
Probably about 90%.
Okay. And
here's the worst part, though. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Go ahead.
So as I'm just thinking about the whole process, they limited to, you had to be in business 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You had to have had your license 2 years, but they were still issuing new license to providers until the RFP came into play.
Yes.
Wow. So
and those people weren't even eligible.
Who couldn't even get jobs. Oh, wow. They didn't know that when they were doing it. They didn't know that they weren't going to be eligible. Wow.
No, this RFP came out of the blue.
Did you guys talk to the agency to find out why they did that, or did you like go to the governor's office to find out what?
Never went to the governor's office. Sent a couple emails; those went unheard. We do now have a new governor. Trying it. I'm not about ruffling feathers, but I want to be fair. Like, have a conversation. This mental health.
Do you think you've been treated unfairly? I mean, I guess firstly, if you clearly someone wanted to take your business from you or take business, so if you want it back, you're probably going to have to ruffle feathers, right? I mean, that's
true. But and I feel like they should have just come out and not said, "Hey, this is just what we're doing." Have the conversation, allow the providers, all of us, I'm not just fighting for me. I'm fighting for those other 160, 200, or however many it was that were out here that have been doing this so many years. What makes you the end all be all that you can pick and choose, and then we can see everybody that applied, because we saw, there were people, somebody released that information. There were other providers that were calling on other people's staff
to hire them away.
To hire them, because the rosters were out there for the world to see. Everybody's information is out there. And we're mandated reporters, and you got HIPAA violations. You got all of this private information. Staff members, their names, their addresses, their licenses that they hold was just out there.
What did your lawyer say? And after the case, what was their opinion?
He got blown out of the water, and it was done and over with.
And he never followed up with you guys. He didn't file an appeal or anything.
No, did nothing.
I think everyone got scared. Once you go into court, and the judge laughed and basically kicked everybody out. Everyone kind of walked out with their tails between their legs, and I think it takes a special person to be in behavioral health. And that's why we still fight, because we believe in what we do. You have, let's not misconstrue it. There are people out here manipulating the system. We know that, right? But you have
like the people who got your contracts, like the RVA.
Right. But you have people that genuinely need the help. We just did an assessment for someone, and in listening to the woman speak, your heartstrings get pulled, because you can weed out the nonsense. This woman has uninsurance. Our contract is pending. She has a 15-year-old son and she's begging for help for her substance use disorder, right? She's like, I really, really need this help.
Yeah.
And her insurance is saying, no, you have to pick one of these other providers. Well, these other providers aren't helping her because she has a 15-year-old son, and that's a liability for them.
Why is her insurance pushing the other providers?
Because they're saying that we're not in network with them right now, and this is what needs to be done. And
we've been pending almost 180 days.
And like United Healthcare just recently terminated our contract, and they said that they are changing the structure of the providers in the area. You know, but you're changing the structure of the providers in the area. I understand you need to, you know, cut down your costs and things like that, but you're taking away services that these people really need. So ultimately what we're doing is keeping these people in their crisis, keeping them in their substance use, and then, you know, in psychosis. So they end up in psychosis, they end up in jail or in, you know, what we have is called Tucker's, the mental health ward, for a few days. And then when they come out, they have to call 988 because they have no support. They have no family. They have nowhere to go.
So, and these are people who have health insurance, right? So they actually have health insurance.
They have Medicaid.
They have health insurance. They have health insurance, but it's a hit or miss whether or not you're going to be covered for whatever treatment that you need.
So let's go back to this judge. The judge who did is a he, right? You said it was a he. So is he elected? Was he elected or is he an appointed judge?
That I'm not too sure of. All I know is he's here in Chesterfield County, and he was not a nice man.
The reason I ask that question is, as we talk about, you know, advocacy and moving things, judges. Our political system is adversarial, but responsive, right? And you know, one of the ways to make it responsive is that the elected officials they work for the people. So if this judge is elected, you should find someone to run against him or try to unseat him. Right? I mean, I think that is something that we encourage everyone in our universe to do. Like, not to elected officials they're not kings. They're not appointed. They're not, you know, ordained. This is someone voted for them. So I think that we encourage people. So that's one thing we should, you know, as you guys think going forward. You know, elections are up. I don't know when the primary is, but you know, local judges probably get elected with less than 5,000 votes. So changing an election, like changing the outcome of one of those elections, for the amount of money you spent on your lawsuit, you might be able to get a new judge in there. So I think that's something that needs to be contemplated.
You know, I think that's something to look into. And until you and I and Danielle had this conversation, it never even occurred to me to even look at who the judge was, how he got there, his beliefs, and so forth. You know, I can just see him sitting up there on the bench looking at us like, you've made all the money you needed to make. Why are you crying? You know, because it's not even about the money. You know, let me take that back. Not wholeheartedly about the money. It's more about where are they going to go? You know, what do they do now? You know, not so much what do we do now? Because like I said, we do provide other services, but, you know, it's not fair. And if you're asking me, Judge, you're judging us, you know, it just wasn't fair. And he looked nonchalant, sitting up there. He wasn't really paying attention. You know, it just kept getting pushed back to the money. Yeah. It wasn't even about the services. It wasn't about the people. It wasn't about anything. It was just more so about the money, and it just wasn't fair.
Yeah, no, I think people who get in positions of quote unquote power forget that they're not high. They're not our leaders. They're our representatives, and I think sometimes they forget. But that's because we don't remind them. And I think that is something that we've got to do a better job of playing that game.
Well, we have an opportunity come June because it was only a 6-month RFP, correct? Yeah.
So I believe I believe in June that we get to reapply. So, you know, I'm anxious to see what happens. Everybody that got it was only for a year.
Yeah.
So the annual is coming up in June. So I'm anxious to see what happens this time
Well, let's have this part of the conversation. I'm jumping forward a little bit, but this is where the other part of the politics come in. Just like they changed the process before, they could change it back. So you should be lobbying to have them change it back. So you got till June to go see the governor and your state reps and your state senators to influence this process. I mean, it doesn't, with the coalition of people who filed the lawsuit, all of y'all together should reach back out to whoever, to all your elected officials to make sure that change. I mean, make sure your voices are heard, because I would bet money that most of the politicians don't even know this happened. I mean, this is such an arcane issue. Probably most of them don't even know, or certainly don't understand the consequences of the change. So I think that, that's another pressure point on the system that you should be looking to engage.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. I like talking.
It's that is the Article 1 of the Constitution guarantees you the right to petition the government for the redress of your grievances. So load them up and make them redress them. Have you talked to the people who've lost their service? So you mentioned the woman today, or someone you talked to who serves. Are you guys keeping track of those people? Because you should create a list or a.
We have a list of those that were awarded. We do have the list.
I'm talking about your customer, the client, the people who aren't able to get service.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I have a list because along with Carol, we make the initial contact and things like that. And I keep a running list of individuals that we're not able to service, because of their insurance and things like that. I also make a list of the providers that they say are their preferred providers within their network. And I will call and, ask questions, how many beds do you have available and things like that, or what is the criteria? And then had a gentleman today, he called and he said, I want to leave the program that I'm in because I don't like that they don't let me use my phone but for an hour a day. So, it's almost like they're taking away their freedom of choice in picking a provider because you're not allowing any new providers in your network.
Well, I think, and I don't know if your other colleagues are doing this, but you guys should all compile a list and a narrative, like a survey or a position paper about all the things you've seen, so people can, when you go see your state reps or your governor, you can actually say, this is what this change in system has caused this horrible outcome for all these people. Because again, I would bet most people have no idea. I'll give you an example. We're working on a thing in Tennessee where they're trying to ban CVS and other pharmacies from corporations from owning pharmacies in the state. Sounds fine, it's corporatization. I don't know, but they don't have a concept of what's going to happen to people if those pharmacies close down, right? So we're trying to educate them on, health inequities, right? And in health deserts or pharmacy deserts. So I think it would be really good as people on the ground to start to collate that data and be able to present it.
That sounds good. I mean, that's, again, I appreciate this platform because those are not things that we thought to do. We've just been asking the question, what do we do? Where do we go from here? And again, I think going back to what Danielle said, after the lawsuit, being tossed out, it was just, you feel defeated.
Yeah.
You feel like you don't have that support system. You feel like, who do I turn to? And then, you send countless emails, you reach out to the powers that be in those organizations, and you still get nothing because, again, it's done and over with. Why are y'all still pushing the issue? And that may not be the end all to be all, but it's definitely how it feels. That who's going to hear me and who really cares?
Yeah. No, I think that's right.
To touch on that, I've sat in on a training that they provided. RBHA provided a training, and I listened to QMHPs, which are the qualified mental health professionals that go out and assist these clients, ask questions. And the answer was, I don't have an answer for that right now.
Yeah.
There's no answer for that. Oh, we already answered that. So
Yeah.
it's very much so like they're gatekeepers of everything, and they don't want you to know anything. But then they will send an email and let you know that you are under extreme. You're under the bullseye. There's a watchful eye on you. Because they're keeping a track of your metrics. They're keeping track of how much staff you have on, and things like that. But here's where it's the double-edged sword, right? They cannot decline anyone based on insurance, and you cannot decline anyone if they come through, right? So let's say John Smith calls me today, and he comes into service today with company A. Okay, great. John Smith is going to call tomorrow, and company B is going to get John Smith, not knowing that company A has him. But because we cannot decline anyone, you have to take it and you have to submit it to the insurance, and then the insurance is going to deny you because he has the open authorization with company A.
Yeah.
So again, I've been privy to some of these conversations, because then I have heard insurance providers call, and they know that these individuals are calling on a daily basis, and they say, we're stuck in the same same scenario you are. We can't deny anyone, even though we're knowing that they're calling every day, just like you can't. So what are we doing? How are we fixing the system? And we understand that one of the biggest problems is displacement. That is, I think, and Carol, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that is the number one reason a lot of people call the National Crisis Line, because they are depressed and they are feeling suicidal because they are displaced and there's no real resources for them anymore. And the local resources that they have, for housing, help with rent or placement and this, that, or the other, they're all at cap right now.
Right.
So what are we doing? How are we fixing this?
You said they're all capped, you said?
They're all at cap.
The resources are tapped out. The waiting list to get on, Section 8 is this, job resources is few and far between. And then, not to put the blame on everybody else, because you got to put in the work to get the work. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to help yourself as well. And, we can give you all the resources, but are you going to use them? And, that goes back to how much time can we take with them to follow up to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And a lot of times people don't understand. If I'm hungry, that plays on my mental. If I don't have a place to sleep, that plays on my mental. And it's, it's a vicious, never-ending cycle. And, a lot of times you can run into people that are saying, well, how do you fix that? How do you, well, what are you doing to get yourself out of that situation? You don't know that you're in that situation until you're in that situation.
Right. And fixing is always, that's why there's experts, right? That's why there are people who have services, because not everyone can fix problems by themselves.
Exactly. And then, you go back to the powers that be. It's not an issue until it affects you directly.
Yeah.
You got to have 5 accidents at the corner in order to get the red light.
Right.
But 5 people had to die for you to do something.
Yeah.
So what do we do? And again, it goes back to, I love what I do. It fell into my lap. It is my passion to help people. And I just love the fact that, if we can help just one, that's great. But those we can't, what are we doing with them? How can we, when we ourselves as, the provider is helpless and our hands are tied?
Well, I would say this, as advocates for the people you care about, the people you want to serve, it may also mean that you have to advocate for the policy changes that need to be made for you to help them better, right? I mean, I think that that's a two-pronged advocacy. One, you got to make sure the rules are in place so you can help them. Then you got to help them, right? And so I think you guys have brought. This is a great issue, and thank you for letting me do this. It's almost like turns out to be almost like a seminar on policy development and advocacy development. So this will be a good episode to copy. So we can play it other places, because this is like the core questions you have to ask yourself. There's all the nuts and bolts things you have to start to work on, like building up the data, building that, identifying the problem, identifying the pressure points, and then building up the narrative to fight it. So, the people are you still in touch with the people that you filed a lawsuit with, or any of the others who maybe didn't file a lawsuit? And are you guys, because the other piece of data you should have, right, is what happened to all the other providers who got dropped off of that list.
A lot of them went out of business.
So I think that's a very, because for elected officials, that's a big thing you need to, like, dear state rep so-and-so, or dear governor so-and-so, you say you care about, all these issues. Well, the last governor changed this rule, and all these people lost their jobs, and all these people lost their services. I mean, I think that is sort of the first part of that conversation. And when you go after the judge, like Judge so-and-so issued a ruling that caused everyone to lose their mental health services. I mean, that's the kind of conversations you want to be able to have.
Yeah, I would love to have those conversations, to have a seat at that table and just to be heard.
Yeah. Well, you have a seat at the table. You just have to sit down. I mean, it's your table, right? So.
Yeah.
Well, come on, Kevin, and get me there.
That's why we're doing this. This is one of those projects that, because this, you guys aren't the only ones. I mean, this happens. I hear this story 5 times a day, right? I mean, it's like literally everyone's being squeezed at someplace. There's a reason why we're less than 1% of all these issues, right? It's not an accident. So that's why I appreciate you guys letting us delve into your personal business and understand.
Right, but they want to go back to and tell you that it's not a race issue. Most the 90% of the providers, I'll even give you 95% of the providers were Black.
Well, we should definitely get a survey of that. You should find that's another thing you should know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure we can find that.
Absolutely, we can, because and again, you have providers that have been out here 15 to 20 years that have lost their business. Yeah. Due to that change. And it's not not looking for apologies, just looking for solutions. Like, now what? Yeah. How do I be in business 15 years, never had an issue, and now all of a sudden I'm an issue?
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's we covered this a lot at the summit this year. We've been covering this for a long time, but we were gathering more and more stories over time, but the stories, there may be different subjects, but the stories are all the same. Anytime you end up with an opportunity for minorities, for African Americans to participate in the economy, there's always someone figuring out a way to shut it down. So it's not, your story is not new, but the thing that's different, you guys are willing to fight, and like you said, you've spent money in a lawsuit, which puts you way ahead of a whole lot of people who are in business who have not. Again, we do a lot with government contractors on here, and most of them have never filed a lawsuit. They're in states. Most of them have never participated in an electoral campaign where the mayor or the state rep hasn't done their part to make sure people get fair shakes at contracts. So you guys are to be commended for being willing to do that, to go that far. I'm going to ask you.
They say if you don't fight for them, you'll stand for anything.
There you go. That's absolutely right. What? So no one ever gave you an answer. The judge left out of court. The lawyer, when you used the lawyer, what did he say before you went to court? What was his whole idea or theory about this case?
Let me say, him and his defense, everything that they said was phenomenal and right in what he was saying. I guess the part he goes to is that when it goes to court, how is it? And again, it just kept going back to the money. They weren't even addressing the issues. They called people to the stand and just kept asking, well, how much money have you made? How
So
much
all of
money have
so
you
they,
made?
so they would call each of the providers to the stand to talk about losing
Well,
out.
they didn't even call them all. They called 3.
Okay.
They called 3 and, just kept asking them, well, how much money have you made? And were you able to do this? And were you, and it just, why do y'all keep bringing it back to the money? We're talking about how this RFP is unfair.
Yeah.
And why is it that Richmond Behavioral Health didn't have to apply for the RFP when they provide the same provider? I mean, they provide the same service as the providers. That wasn't fair.
Yeah.
They should have been able to put in a bid just like everybody else.
Yeah. It's like it's an antitrust. It's an anti-competitive antitrust issue that we've come into a lot in this space. And then and knowing from the state, and you don't know how the other regions run. You don't know what if they have a similar structure.
We know. Well, here's the other part. Us included, we're trying to get into other regions, and we've been shut down too because I guess so many people were trying to go out into different areas that those regions have shut down too.
So what?
Not accepting new.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No. So what did they say? What did the other regions say to you?
We're not accepting new providers at this time.
But do they have the same structure as Region 4, meaning like one big provider who gets like all the intake? Or
I think every region has its own hub. But they are not. I think they just been so inundated with new providers trying to come in to get the services and issue the services, and I guess they only allow a certain amount depending on how many people are in the area or something. But either way,
MOU, right?
I'm sorry.
They're still operating over the MOU, so they keep I think that's what they have, and then you have to have, what was it, Carol, approval for the dispatch system. So once you get
from the behavioral health. Yeah, behavioral health link is to give you this, that, and the third. So it's a whole lot of processes that go into it. If I lose you, I apologize in advance because this storm has finally hit us.
I know I keep getting warnings on my TV that we're so I also have you. What's the difference between the MOU and the RFP?
So the MOU is what you're issued once your license has been issued and you are licensed to do services, to provide the services. The RFP is what we put in request for the information that we had to put in the bid like a state contract.
So this
contract actually was on EVA.
It's on what now?
EVA.
This RFP was on EVA. We had to go through EVA to apply for this contract.
No. The question I have for you is, in the other regions, did you have to also apply? Did you also have to do a contract or an RFP for the other regions too?
No. Region 4 is the only one doing it.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get to. Okay, all right. And that process was a new process just for that area.
Yes.
Just for Region 4. Okay. And you guys have never talked to the Virginia Behavioral whatever office?
Personally, no.
But the thing is, even when we sent an email about them releasing, all of that personal information, there was no response to that email.
Yeah.
Then a broad response came out and said, and I'm paraphrasing, it was like, I sent it out, everybody got awarded, that's it.
But that was from the Richmond, that was the Region 4.
It was from Region 4, Richmond Behavioral Health Department. That was the email, because Carol did send an email to the person directly and said, hey, this email contains confidential information.
And who oversees Richmond Behavioral Health?
It's a couple of them.
Okay.
I only know one off the top of my head, Michael Rogers, but I don't
No,
know
I mean,
the others.
so
I don't know
Michael,
anybody higher than him.
yeah, but so yeah, so we don't know, like, so Richmond Behavioral Health or whatever, that's an agency in the government, right? But it must fall under a
It's an
secretary.
agency. It's an agency here in Richmond.
It's an agency in Richmond. Right?
Yeah,
But
so it's a community. Basically, what they are is a community service board.
okay, because you said there are like 10 regions, so each region is overseen by a different service
Their
board.
own,
Yes,
their own CSB.
Yeah,
Let's,
and so but then each of the each of the CSBs, they all, so they fall under somebody's umbrella at the state level. Like there's a single titular head of that
yes,
structure, that octopus, and we don't know what agency that is. We need to find out what agency that is.
yes.
Like, is it the secretary? Like, is it the surgeon general of the state or whoever? Someone is oversees that
So
component.
the oversees all of the CSBs would be the department DBHDS and DMAS.
What's DDHD?
DBHDS. That's the Department of Behavioral Health and Human Services, and then DMAS is the Department of Medical something.
Okay. Well, yeah, we won't solve all these problems on this call. This is for you guys, but it's also for everyone listening, because everyone's got issues. So this is the process people need to go through as they think about these issues. Okay, this is interesting. They're very interesting. And it's granular, but that's okay. I mean, because there's got to be someone who does oversight. Like there's got to be an inspector general over this area. There's a lot of bureaucracy is tedious, but it is reliable in one sense. There's a bunch of steps.
right.
Well, I know you've got storms coming. I've got storms coming. I don't want. Oh, Department of Medical Services. Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, it was funny. One of our Monique from St. Louis just popped up she made a comment, the Eagle's Nest, and she does mental health stuff. She does housing, homeless shelter. She does a lot of emergency care, and she's run into the same funding problems as you guys are, in the same structural, political, and we're working with her. So this is, we're gonna win, lose, or draw. We're gonna get to the bottom of all this as we go through the process. But so as we close
I'll
out,
gather as much information. I want to give you that because I know that lawsuit is filed with the Fairfield County, and I may still have what he filed in my email somewhere. I will send that information to you. But
we may want to talk to him too. We may want to talk to him if he'll talk to us. It would be useful for him to tell us what he thought from his perspective.
Well, they tried to do another one. I want to say, was it Danielle in November?
Yeah.
Because the award, everybody's services ended December 19th.
Mm-hmm.
So there was another try to go do this lawsuit again, but after losing so much money the first time, nobody was willing to do it again, especially since they were losing a service. It's that defeated feeling.
Yeah.
Some people lost. Some people lost 3 employees. Some people lost 10 to 12. It's just a bad situation to be in with no. Where do we turn now? Who do we talk to? Where can we go just to be heard? And then to be shot down when you are heard is, yes.
And this is all Richmond. So one of the things we will work on, one of the things I suggest you do, right, is all of y'all, as many of you can gather, should just pile into your state rep's office and your state senator's office, right? I mean, they should be working on this for you. I mean, that's their job.
There was an idea to do that, I think, at one point. And this is where we as a people fall short, right?
Mhm.
We do a lot of talking, and when it comes down to action, everyone is just like, no, I don't want to. Because again, there was a lot of talk. I'm not. Carol is the administrator, so she gets a lot of the administrative, those conversations and things like that. And there was a conversation I remember, and the guy said, "We need to storm, and we need to protest, and we need to do this, and let's meet here." And in doing so, he was very, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's go out there. Let's show these people that, in numbers we can make a difference.
Yeah.
And when it came down to the day, no one showed up.
Mhm.
And that's the problem.
Nobody.
And I think it's the biggest problem that we have, again, as a people, is that is a lot of talk. And in behavioral health, people are selfish and greedy.
That's everywhere. That's beyond, even beyond behavioral health. That's
I
everywhere.
think behavioral health, because there's so many services that can be provided, right?
Mhm, mhm.
If we all got together and we all did this, we can all win.
Right.
And even and I say behavioral health because this is what we specialize in, but
Right.
that's in everything. That can be in family medicine. It could be in psychiatry. There's just so many different things and so many avenues that if we gather together, we can all win, and it's not happening. And I think that's another reason why the lawsuit fell short,
Mhm.
because the first one, it was just like, oh, it was a no, so the door is closed. But how many no's do we need to get that one yes?
Right.
You need fighters. And yes, okay, we lost my business for 15 years, but I feel a lot of those people kind of gave in quickly. And
Right.
we've been in business 3 years, and we still, knocking at the door like, okay, well, what's next? And we're steady, trying to do new things. That's why we started Avenyx, to try to be, competitive and provide services in the field and things like that, so we can be separated from the rest. Because
Yeah.
unfortunately, here's the other side of it. A lot of people said that they joined or started doing these services for the money,
Mhm.
right? And that therefore, those of us, Carol, myself, Katie, Jasenia, who co-founded Halo, are suffering because we do this as a passion. This is what we want to do. We want to genuinely help people. We want to genuinely give that and be that safe space for people. Now here we are, like, okay, and we get to fight for everybody else, but nobody stood up for us. And I
Mhm.
don't have a problem with that. But if we would have fought this battle from when the RFP first started, December 19th, we should have been knocking on everybody's door. We should have been
Correct.
protesting, and not, the week before Christmas, letting your staff go.
Right. Yeah, I know. I will tell
Right.
you.
It breaks my heart. My I'm sorry, Kevin.
Go ahead, Carol.
It breaks my heart. I had to tell my the owner, operator, CEO, Tracy, who founded Fresh New Beginnings, she was like, they don't care about these people, and I just want to help. I had to tell her, everybody ain't you. Yeah. Everybody doesn't have your heart. Everybody don't see your passion. And unfortunately, we're fighting a battle. I'm not going to say a losing battle, but we are in this battle with no, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard, and it's disheartening.
So there's a concept in
that
political
you watched it.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Carol.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say.
No, I was just, if we could.
Go ahead. Finish your stuff.
If we could get out of the crabs in the barrel mentality, and all come together and pull together, then it would work.
There's a concept in political theory, political change theory, called the 3% rule. And the 3% rule basically states that most of the change in life in the world takes place with 3% of the people. 3% of the people make all the change. So you guys may be at 3%. You never get 50%, 6%. It's 3%. Like it's 3% of dedicated individuals make all the change. So that's what we're shooting for.
We're the 3%, Carol.
You're the 3%ers.
I like 3%. It's better than no percent.
Well, no, it's a small group, but it's a small, motivated group of people. So, I thank you. We're at an hour, and before you know, I don't know if I have to run to my tornado basement or whatever. But you ready?
I'm gonna go run in my bathtub. So,
But I appreciate you
Hide
guys.
in one of my closets.
Just don't get blown
Absolutely.
away. We only got 3% of y'all. We only got 3%
I'm
of
little,
y'all. We
so
can't
I'm
afford
going.
to lose you.
well, we thank you so
Right.
much.
I'm little, so I'm going.
So I really appreciate you, Keevan, for having us on.
No, thank you for sharing your
Absolutely,
story.
Keevan. Thank you so much.
All right, ladies. Good night. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy.
Tracy.